Hi, today we're going to be talking about how to get away from spending $70, $80 on a saw and getting a very decent saw that's going to work for you for most of your, bushcrafting, prepping type needs. Something to go in your go bag, a little smaller, a little lighter, and somewhere around the $20 range is what we're looking for. So that kind of takes away right off the bat any of the silky saws. Great saws, nothing wrong with them. They're a little on the expensive side. So let's get something a little cheaper. Now, this is the Baco Laplander. This is a very popular saw. Everybody loves these things. I tend to stay away from these saws for a couple reasons. These are a full push and pull saw, which means they cut on the pull and push stroke. And when you have nothing to support it, this is great if you have a bow saw. But if you're having something that you're actually going to be working with, they tend to have a lot of problems when you're getting up into your bigger types of wood. And only being a 7-inch blade, really cutting some about 2 to 3 inches, about as big as you're going to get. So something like this, like we said, we're going to start. These are great for bushcraft type items because they make really fine cuts. They cut into stuff really easy. And they're easy to pull back and forth to cut your V-grooves when you're doing a bow drill for making fires, things like that. So kind of a neat idea. Building shelters, all those kind of ideas, they work great for that. But as you're going to notice, you pull and push on this one. So we'll just count the strokes and remember, I only count the back strokes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 strokes, not a bad saw. Not a big fan of the push button system that are on these. The only reason I own one is so I can tell people what I don't like about them. One, the blade hasn't been thinned. So in most of your high-end saws, you'll see that the blade is actually thinner at the back or at the spine than it is actually at the tip. And that allows the saw to be able to pull through a lot easier. The other thing most saws will do that are nicer, they'll actually thin as they come to the tip. And this allows, as they pull back, to be a much easier stroke. Not a big deal when you're dealing with something real small like this, but as you get bigger and bigger logs, it's going to become a lot harder. The other problem I've had is I do not like this push button lock. I've had a lot of problems with it locking up, and I've seen them break online. So what do I recommend in that $20 range? Oh, one thing, if you are going to buy the Baco Laplander, buy it for another $5. You get a Mora type knife. They're both made in the same area. I'm assuming it is made by the same company. Great knives, simple, and for an extra $5 you get a $15 knife. So that's how I bought mine. This is the better deal out of the whole entire package in my opinion. Don't really care for the handles on these. Fairly uncomfortable in the hand, but they're cheap. 20 bucks. Now if I had $20, what would I spend it on? Well, I'm a big fan of the Corona saws. Now, this is a saw I've had for years and years and years and years, and you'll see, I'll kind of show you, you're not going to see a big difference, but the big thing you'll notice is if you run your fingers, you kind of fold the blade in half, and run your fingers right up here, next to where it is, you'll feel that they've actually cut it down, and that it actually is thinner at the spine than it is at the tip. Again, this is not a push-pull saw. This is a only pull. So it does not do anything on the forward push, just like a silky saw. These blades are very similar in cut and tooth size, and they're also very similar in blade, performance and hardness. So this is a little different steel, but still very similar. So let's take one I've had for 20 years. So this is the 7-inch version. So we're going to go ahead, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Keep in mind this is a saw I've had for 20 years. So I really like this version. They come in a couple different handle styles. I really like this version. It has a metal latch on it, which makes it a little nicer. They fold up really nice, and they lock closed. And I really like that better than the silky saw version, because the silkies do not lock closed. Something to think about in that form. So let's take the brand new version. These open a little nicer and is definitely in better shape. So let's see here. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So in that distance of about an inch, we've already took off about 2 strokes off the laplander. Keep in mind, the bigger the board, the more that's going to affect you. That may not be a big deal if you're only making shelters and making small, you know, bow drills, stuff like that. Not going to be the end of the world. Steel as saw at this size, I actually carry these in my truck, my work truck, and I use them. They're about the same thickness of a standard skill saw blade. So if I'm sitting there and I'm cutting plywood, what I use them for at work at least is if I'm cutting into a square where I'm dead ending and I don't want to cut past and ruin the plywood, I'll use this saw to come back in and finish off the cut, because this saw blade is round and it's going to leave a little bit on each end. So that's what I use these saws for. They fit in my bags really well. They're nice and light. They are a straight bladed saw. So something to think about. What would I choose? If I had $20, I'd run over to Lowe's and I would spend money on the Corona 10-inch saw. Now, what are some of the features I really like with the saw? One, the handle is reasonable. Not the best handle in the world. A lot of people have complained that they've had problems. I've only seen one person complain that they broke it. I have not any problems with it. It's easy to use. I don't have any problems. It is a curved saw blade, which I really, really like for performance-wise. Curved saw blades are really nice. You will see that it slightly gets thinner as it gets out to the tip. That's allowing it to be able to pull through the material, and as the wood tries to curve back around the blade, it's allowing it to be able to pull really easy. You'll notice this doesn't have a lot of problems with binding. It's a little thicker saw, so even if you do bind it up a little bit, it's a little harder to bend. The other thing is, again, and you can see this on this particular one quite a little bit when you feel across, you're going to feel that it gets thinner from the teeth and thins out to the spine or the back of the blade. That allows it to cut and have a wider kerf at the bottom and thin out to the top, which allows less friction on the blade and allows you to cut a little easier. Now let's see what we can do here with this guy. So 10-inch blade. Keep in mind, we're not going to see a huge dramatic difference because I don't want to make the video 40 minutes long, cutting a lot of big giant stuff. This one does work really well in the 7 to 8-inch size logs. Definitely something to kind of keep in mind on, and being only $20 at Lowe's, it's kind of a great deal. So let's see, 1, 2, 3 and a half. So definitely something that we can, you know, we can sit here and discuss about. And that was 3. So you're going to be able to, you're even cutting about 1 stroke off per inch from the 7-inch. Now, they do make the 7-inch, like I said, in this same style handle. You can get it at Home Depot. I really recommend buying it on my eBay. 20 bucks. Definitely look for. The older saws are a little heavier. You're going to be about, you know, 10 ounces. About 7 ounces here. And it's pretty close to about 6.5, 7 ounces for the Baco. So these very similar saws. If I had my choice, if I was walking to a store, I'd buy the Corona every day of the week. I think the saw is a little faster, a little easier to use, and tends not to bind up as much. And I hate any bladed saw that when I'm pushing, I'm cutting. So the way these saws work is all about lessening up. The same thing with the silkies. So let's say you got a silky big boy. We're able to pull back, and I'm going to let up on the push stroke. So the push stroke is not, I'm not pushing into the wood. I'm pulling hard, pulling forward, pulling hard, lightening up, and allowing it to go through. So you'll even see, I mean, we can cut with the big boy here, which is a much more expensive saw. Very similar blade, though. Now, the one thing you do get with this Silkies, and there's a lot of Silkies out there, the only one that compares in the weight, though, would be the Silky 180, and again, it's an all-plastic handle anyway. So to me, we're not getting the benefit of like the Gomboy and some of the other ones, but for the price, I can put 2 of these in 2 different packs versus 1 of the Gomboys. But even with the larger 14-inch blade here, let's see if we can really make this one. So 1, 2, 3, you know, 3 strokes, very similar in cutting to the 10-inch saw, but you're looking at about 70 bucks, $20. So I'm a big fan of these. These go in all of our packs, all of our go bags, unless you have a little bit bigger pack that I know I'm going to be taking for a few days. We go ahead and we use the Black Bear Scout Saw. These are awesome, lightweight. They weigh 2 to 3 ounces more than the 10-inch, and anywhere from 2 to 3 ounces lighter than the Big Boy 2000. So kind of something to think about. You know, a nice bow saw is a great way to do it, and you'll see in a bow saw wage, you know, again, we're getting up in price, so that's definitely going to make it so we're going to be cutting a little bit differently. It's going to be faster, the blades are going to be cheaper, and at $20 you just replace the saw, not the blade. So you just go down and buy her. So you can buy new blades, but by that time, most of the time, it's just as cheap just to buy a whole new saw. They lock up real nice. I have not had any problems with any of my Corona saws. Again, they're not made in America, same as the Silkies. Silkies are made in Japan. These were made in Japan for a while, with the older ones used to have Japan written on them. Now they're made in the Philippines somewhere. So my choice for your cheap $20, you know, saws, the Corona 10-inch Razor 2 saw. Again, what I like about these is you can run down to Lowe's and pick them up today. Almost every Lowe's I've been to has them. They're in the pruning section. You're going to find them next to their pruning saws, things like that. And they do work really well, even if I had a bow saw, to be able to get into areas where you maybe you're motorcycle riding, things like that. You just want something to throw on your handlebars. It fits. You can strap it right on or duct tape it to your handlebars if you're in an area where maybe you're going to be making a fire, where you're stuck out, snowmobiling, things like that. These I've cut up to a 10-inch log pretty easy. There is some work that goes into that, and you can actually spin it until you get it all the way through. But you can do a lot more with a smaller blade than you can on a bow saw. But they tend to, scouts tend to have a hard time, because you are remembering it's about the pull, lighten up, pull, lighten up, pull, lighten up, pull. You know, that's the trick. And when you get that rhythm going, you can actually go quite fast with the saws. But it's all about that pull. I don't like grip saws like this because I have to grip them and hold on both ways, so I'm pushing and pulling. I've got to have a lot of grip here. That hurts my hand. So I'm a big fan of bow saws. But for 20 bucks, can't go wrong. So, as always, like, share, leave your comments at the bottom. Tell us what you'd like to know about next. And as always, have a great day.